Hello, everyone. Good morning. And first of all, pardon my late entry this morning. I had to settle some personal issues behind the scenes before I come online, or else that will disturb the flow of the session. So, for those of you who waited for that few minutes, thank you very much for your patience. So we're heading into another phase, a very important phase of the week. That is the second half of the week, which is highly laced with high impactful events. If you look at the economic calendar, we're looking forward to the NFP on Friday. We also have the average hourly earnings. We have a bunch of Fed official speeches. We also have the ISM Services PMI, which is coming up later today. And of course, tomorrow we have the initial jobless claim count. And of course, these are market moving events, and definitely market participants are preparing themselves ahead of this event, and as a result we are likely going to be seeing some high level of volatility in this market. And what we are going to be doing today is to try to understand what has been going on so far this week. We had a session on Monday, trading sessions on Tuesday, and of course Wednesday. We want to see how the market participants are digested the fundamentals, and of course what to expect after looking at the technical structures on the chart. So since the beginning of the week, we have been monitoring three financial instruments, that is the USOILSPOT, the USDJPY, and of course the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. And so today we are going to be doing a follow-up on it. We are going to be seeing how well these assets have done, and of course see how we can strategically position ourselves for the next move. So if you are a fan of any of these assets, you do not want to miss out on this session, as we have a lot to delve into. Now, before we go in, welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. You're highly welcome on board. Very glad to have you around with us this morning. The Forex Morning Mastery is an avenue where we come together on 3 times in a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, to try and understand what is going on in the market, and of course using that information to strategically position ourselves for the next move. It's not a signal service platform, but an avenue where we come to strategize and see how we can capitalize on the market's next move. So you are highly welcome on board. Very excited to have you around with us, and feel free to engage in the comment section. So with that said, here we are going to be delving right into the business. And of course, you know how we do it. The first thing we want to be doing is to have a quick insight into what is going on in the US dollar market. And I keep emphasizing the importance of this. Remember, there is no way we can trade any of these assets I talked about, that is the USOILSPOT, the USDJPY, and the XAUUSD, without really understanding what is going on in the US dollar market space. And at the moment, the US dollar is showing some sign of recovery. We saw this happen since the beginning of, following that nosedive we saw here at the beginning of the week. So we see from the chart here, you will see that the price of the US dollar dropped on Monday right into the close to the $98.50 level before we saw this recovery happen during yesterday's trading session. And as it is right now, the US dollar regained some footing ahead of key US economic data, as job market resilience and fiscal fears tug on trader sentiment at this point in time. And if you look at where price is back into an area that is known to be a strong demand zone in the last couple of months. That is the $99 area. And we had a significant breakdown here on Monday, and price retraced back into structure. And even despite the break above the $99 area, we can see that buyers are finding it difficult to continue that uptrend scenario. Now, the question as we head into the second half of the week is whether this recovery we see here is maybe a retracement move of the bearish leg we saw on Monday that will incite another wave of bearish momentum to the downside. Now, what are the things that actually gave the dollar a recovery stance in the last couple of days, in the last 24 to 36 hours, one of which is the strong US labor data we saw yesterday, and that is the JOLTS. So the report showed that there was 7.391 million job openings, which was well above the expectation of 7.1 million and above the previous month data, which was 7.2 million. Now, of course, this signals that the US job market remains strong at the moment, which could make the Fed delay interest rate cuts. And this obviously gave the dollar some traction yesterday. Then besides this, investors are now watching to see if NFP confirms this labor strength. This is like a purview for the NFP report we are expecting on Friday. And since it's a labor-oriented data, and the NFP also is a labor-oriented data, it's giving us a picture that we may likely see a very good report on Friday. And if it does, it will push back the Fed interest rate cut bet, hereby supporting the US dollar further to the upside. So for now, the dollar has recovered a little bit. And of course, I'm not going to be thinking that this is an outright recovery, considering what we are seeing on the chart right now. As we can see, the last, how many hours now? The last 2 hours have seen some strong selling pressure around this particular area. And if this is going to be the case, and despite the short-term dollar strength, there is a broader market consensus that the Fed will cut interest rate anytime soon. So this may also cap any uptrend scenario around the US dollar and making the path of least resistance for the US dollar to the downside. Then concerns are also growing over the US budget deficit and debt levels, which hurts investors' confidence in the long-term perspective. So for me, if we look at things from a long-term purview, it is quite clear that the path of least resistance to the downside. If this recovery works, we don't know yet. That will be subject to what will happen. So if NFP comes in very strong, we expect a strength in the US dollar, which could also put down pressure on gold commodity, the US oil commodity, and of course support the USDJPY to the upside. But if NFP misses expectation, that may likely confirm rate cuts are coming and leading to the US dollar weakness, supporting the gold commodity, the crude oil, and of course the Japanese yen. So we have to be very, very flexible with mixed signals coming in very soon. And today, what are we looking at from the US economic docket? So today, Wednesday, June 4th, we have the ADP employment change coming up about 12:15 p.m. UTC. That's about 1:15 p.m. local time. And this data here gauges employment in the private sector. And of course, if the data comes in higher than expected, it is considered to be a positive one. And from what we see on the ground right now, there is a general consensus that the data will come in at 115,000, which is way higher than the previous month data, which was at 62,000. So what this simply means is that there is positivity in the air around the labor sector in the United States. So that's one event we want to be looking forward to. That's 12:15 p.m. UTC. Then we also have the ISM Services PMI, which is coming up around 2 p.m. UTC today. And this data here will be giving us an idea of how well the service sector in the United States is doing. The service sector is considered to be about 70% of the US economy, and whatever happens here could also favor or probably make the US dollar contract today. And from what we have here, the consensus is projecting a 52, a little bit above the previous month data, which was pegged at 51.6. And let me reiterate this. This is a PMI data, that is Purchaser Managers Index, and it has an index of between 0 to 100. So anything above 50 is considered as a plus for that sector, and anything below 50 is considered as a minus. So if the data comes in higher than expected, it could further spur the US dollar to the upside. So we look forward to see what the actual data will be on that one. Will it be just as expected, below expectations, or even beyond expectations? Then besides this, we are also looking forward to a couple of speeches from Fed Reserve officials who are members of the FOMC committee. So that means they are decision makers, they are voting members of the FOMC, and whatever they have to say today will be on everyone's radar. Everyone wants to have an insight into what the Federal Reserve is planning as regards to their monetary policy decisions. They want to know what their perspective is based on the current economic data that has been released in the last couple of weeks, which will be giving market an insight into whether interest rate will be cut anytime soon or not. So these are the major events that we are looking forward to today. And of course, the anticipation of such event has its own way of influencing how market participants will behave, or let me say, anticipate this event. And of course, we can have an insight or an idea into what they are thinking based on the structural formation we find on the charts. Now, with this information we have gathered here, I would love that we go right into the business for today, and let's see what is really going on in this market we talked about earlier. So I will be moving right into the first instrument that we are going to be looking at this morning. So as always, the first asset we take on is the USOILSPOT. And the last 24 to 36 hours, we've seen the USOILSPOT gain some traction. Remember, we had a significant move at the beginning of the week. Hold on a second. I want to... So if you look at the chart here, remember this was the structure we were looking at as at the beginning of the week. We had a descending trend line, right, which captures the market sentiment in the last couple of months. And of course, we did acknowledge that price action was gradually edging towards that resistance line. And I did mention that if price can break out, retest that trend line, it will welcome more buying ideas for us. So finally, we saw this happen yesterday. Price broke out of that structure, but I still strongly think that the price of crude oil is looking looking as if it is capped at the moment, as a stronger US dollar may cool the rally anytime soon, but supply risk still keeps the bullish idea on the table. So we need to be very, very careful around the structure, especially looking at things from a technical standpoint. You will see that price action is back into a crucial resistance line at the $63 area, a level which has been consistently inhibiting the breakout from buyers in the last 4 to 5 weeks. Now, will price break out of the structure, or are we going to see another wave of selling momentum begin from this particular area? So to have a better idea into what is going on, let's scale down into to our execution time frame to see how we can actually take advantage of this move. Are we going to see price retrace maybe back into the key level to incite another wave of bullish momentum, or how are we going to see price break out of the $63 area to continue an uptrend scenario? Now, if we look at the fundamentals, before we go into that execution time frame, if we look at the fundamentals, the data we're seeing presently shows that the sentiment might be to the upside. Why? Recently we saw a wildfire which caught Canadian output, and Canadian output is usually pegged at 344,000 barrels per day. That particular area where the wildfire came from, and this could probably disrupt supply, hereby tightening the supply into the global market, right? And of course, when supply reduces, what happens to prices? Demand increases because of scarcity, and then price will rise. Then secondly, no progress in the Iranian-US talk situation is also a very, very big concern for market participants as well. Then the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war is also a strong geopolitical tension that could keep energies traders risk sensitive at this point in time, limiting the downside move that may likely happen. And if we look at the Eurozone inflation's dropping as well, the chances of the ECB cutting interest rate is becoming realistic at this point in time, and this could potentially simulate economic activity, and all demand growth in the Europe will also increase. So a bullish demand in that particular area could also support the uptrend scenario. So if we look at all of these factors, the path of least resistance is looking as if the $63 area will finally be broken anytime soon. And if it does get broken, this could be a platform that could send price of crude oil going to find new highs at this point in time. However, we need to be very careful as well, especially after the strong US data that came in yesterday showing that the labor sector in the United States is tight. And due to this, if a strong US dollar means that US crude oil will become very expensive for holders of other currencies to buy. And if that is going to be the case, it's likely going to reduce the demand for crude oil. And if the demand reduces, what happens? Supply increases, and this exerts selling pressure on this. So we are at a critical juncture at this point in time where I will personally need some confirmation before jumping into any particular direction. And of course, the events we are looking forward to are going to be playing a significant role. And as a result of this, major key players may be stepping aside from this market before waiting for this data to come in before making any aggressive bet. And due to this, we may likely see extended sideways trading activities between today, tomorrow, before the NFP comes in on Friday, where liquidity will come into the market. So how do we intend to capitalize on this? Now, if you look at this move here, we can see since the beginning of the week, the momentum has been strongly bullish. And ever since price got into that $63 area we identified earlier, the price appeared to be going through a consolidation, or let me say a choppy market conditions, as market participants reposition themselves ahead of the economic data coming up later this week. Now, I wasn't able to identify any structural detail that could help me on the 1 hour time frame. So what I did was to scale down into the 15 minutes time frame. And right here on the 15 minutes time frame, this was what I was able to come up with. So after taking the character of price action since yesterday morning, and considering the selling pressure we saw around the resistant line at the $63 area, I have a couple of descending trend line to emphasize the strength of the sellers around this area. So after connecting the series of lower highs, you will see we have my primary trend line, which is the thick dotted green line you see on your screen, right above the as descending trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame. And look at what happened here during the early hours of today. We saw price break out of the structure, and from a theoretical standpoint, we do expect that when price breaks out of a key structure like this, price is likely going to come back, retest the structure in an attempt to continue the uptrend move. So that's a theoretical expectation. So if we take that into account, I'm looking at placing a buy stop order above the $62.65 level. So I will do that right away. Hold on a second. I'm going to be doing that right away, placing that buy stop order above the resistance line of the $62.65 level. Okay, $62.65 level. So I just placed the buy stop order right now, as you can see on my screen, hoping that price will at some point retest the structure to continue that uptrend move. Now, please mind you, we may likely see an opportunity to buy even before that breakout happens. So for instance, if price comes into this trend line, first of all, and then we begin to see buy pressure around this area, maybe it evolves into a form of reversal setup. Let's say the double bottom structure, the inverse head and shoulder pattern, a falling wedge, whichever case it may be. We mark out the structure, we mark out the neckline, and of course buy the breakout retest of that neckline. That will probably give us an opportunity to buy, have one buy position before the $62.65 level breaks out of, and then we can actually maximize the potential of that bullish move. So are we at a crucial juncture? We want to see if the market will retest the trend line and then continue the uptrend to continue the uptrend. But if that is not the case and we begin to see signs of sellers coming into play, and then we see market participants being cautious around this area, then the only condition that will make me sell is for me to see price break down the $62.50 level. And by the time price will break down the $62.50 levels, you see here price will be back within seller's territory. And what I mean by that is price will be back below the descending trend line of that we just identify here, making it a signal to go short. Now, one thing I'll say here is this: I will not be jumping into a sell right away. I will wait for a confirmation to happen before jumping into a sell. Now, the reason why I say this is basically because of what we saw in the fundamentals. The path of least resistance is looking very bullish around this point. And if we look at the structure on the chart, you see that price action is above the descending trend line we marked out on the 4 hours time frame. So the possibility of price coming to retest the trend line here is also on the table. So if I want to sell below the $62.50 level, I would want to see confirmations like price coming back to retest the structure where continuous selling pressure below the $62.65 level, and that second descending trend line will give me an opportunity to join the sell. Now, if we join the sell move, if price gets close to this trend line, that is this pink dotted line you see here, we move all stop losses at least to break even while we monitor price action around that area. If price breaks down, retests it, then this will further confirm oil price is going to crash further. And if that is not the case and buy pressures persist below the structure, then we may be taken out of that sell position at break even. Then we look out for buy setup to continue the uptrend scenario. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing around the US oil spot today. And trust me, updating us accordingly on my Telegram platform as I continue to monitor price action around this particular area. So we're at a crucial juncture right now. We have a range bound, a 15-cent range bound structure where price may likely go into an extended sideways trading activity around that area that is between here and here for a while before we see a breakdown or a breakout to confirm where we are going today. So let's see what happens here. It could take 3-4 hours before we finally get a direction, but at this juncture, exercise patience is very, very necessary. So let's see what happens. I encourage us all to mark out the structures accordingly, and I'll be needing them as a reference point to guide our independent trading decisions today. And if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will take about 5-10 seconds off. Let's see if there are any questions before we move on to the next asset on our watch list. Stay tuned in. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. Those structures are duly marked out accordingly, as we have said. And let's see how the market will play around this particular structure. So I wish us all the best of luck on that one. So moving on to the next asset on our watch list. So the next asset we are looking at is the USDJPY, and what we're seeing here, especially during the Asian session, is how the Japanese yen appear to be fighting to recover ground as mixed Bank of Japan signals clash with rising inflation hopes and global uncertainty. Now, with the way things are going, since the new week began on the USDJPY, we've done fairly well on this asset. Remember, we were selling at the beginning of the week after identifying our key level at the 143.800 area. We had the support line here at the 143.500, which was broken to the downside to welcome selling opportunities. And of course, we were able to ride the momentum all the way into that ascending trend line we spotted on the higher time frame, which gave us about 90 pips thereabout before that bullish momentum came in. Of course, I was able to take about 45 pips thereabout because I moved my stop losses to secure some profit on this one. And look at what happened immediately price got into that trend line. Remember, this was part of our illustrations on Monday. We said that as soon as price gets close to this trend line, we want to be moving all stop losses to secure some profit as the emergence of a reversal setup here could welcome counter trend opportunities, and this was exactly what happened. I did give us an update on this asset, was it not, later in the night on Monday, giving us a resistant line here where I did mention that a breakout retest could welcome buying opportunity, and this was exactly what happened. We rode the momentum because of the nature of the USDJPY, which has been on a strong bearish momentum since the beginning of the year. My TP was around the 143.800. Never knew price will break out of that particular structure. Now, this bullish momentum we saw here was supported by the strong US data we saw yesterday. Now, besides that, global equity market are trading positively at this point in time. When traders feel confident, you know what they do? They tend to leave safe haven asset like the Japanese yen, like the gold commodity, they leave safe haven asset like the yen, of course, and the gold commodity, hereby limiting the Japanese yen strength at this point in time. So we saw that momentum to the upside due to this. Then secondly, there is been some political instability in Japan at the moment, where reports suggest that Japan's parliament may be dissolving for snap election. Now, political uncertainty tends to discourage buying the currency assets of that economy, which is one of the reasons why we see the yen decline in the last 24 to 30 hours. And to add salt into injury, the Bank of Japan's governor said that there is no preset plan for interest rate hike at the moment, and that they will move only if the economy is strong enough. Now, this dampens expectations of an aggressive rate hike cycle from the Bank of Japan, which further dampens the sentiment in this particular market. Now, with the way things are going right now, you will see that price is back above the key level we marked out at the beginning of the week. And what has been going on since price got to that structure, we can see the market has been going through a consolidation. It's looking a little bit choppy. We don't know who is going to win. Is it going to be the buyers? Is it going to be the sellers? Buyers try to break out of structure, but if you look at the character of these candles, you will continue to see shooting star candles around that area. So the question now is, will this level, or let me say, will this confluence become the platform that will send the US dollar to the upside, or will it be the platform that will incite a sell-off, maybe back into the primary ascending trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame? Now, what could be that fundamental factor that can support the yen's momentum? Well, we saw yesterday the hold on a second. Okay, this was the Bank of Japan's pitch. Did we see any data from the Japanese economy? No, there wasn't any. But last week we saw the PMI, which was showing signs of growth. Then high inflation in Japan too is still on the table. Inflation in Japan is very, very high at the moment, which could force the Bank of Japan to hike interest rate later this year. So we are talking about long-term perspective now. And then the weakness in the US dollar could also be a platform that the Japanese yen could take advantage of. And if we look at the trade uncertainty, especially the US-China situation and new tariff situations, this could keep safe haven demand for the Japanese yen alive. So a risk-off environment usually benefits the yen. So we really don't know what is going to happen at the moment, but one thing I know for sure is that if we can exercise patience, we will get a signal. Now, to help us navigate the market today, I have a simple structure right here on the 15 minutes time frame. And for those of you who are with me on my Telegram and TradingView platform, you must have seen this update. So this is what I came up with this morning after noticing that choppy market conditions. So I have a temporary demand zone just right around that key level we identified at the beginning of the week. So I said here in this illustration that I will be buying a reversal setup since price, look at this trend line here, price broke out of the trend line. That was during the Asian session, and then we saw price appear to come back and retest the structure. And if that is going to be the case, we may likely be seeing price continue the uptrend move. And with the way things are going right now, the inability conference sitting within a demand zone for me may be a good sign to join a buy. So what I will do now is to place a buy right now. So I'll place a buy right now with a stop loss right below the key level. I don't know why that is not going through. Okay. Let's see. Is my network too slow or what? I'm trying to place a buy and it is not going through. So what do I do now? I'm trying to place a buy, but so I'll keep trying. So if you want to join this move with me, I'm looking at placing a buy here, and then let's see how this is going to play out. Let me do it one more time. Okay, finally it goes through. So I'll place a buy there. Then I'll put my stop loss right below that key level, the key level at the 143.800. So if price can break below this key level, then we could see a shift in the momentum. Okay, so I think I'm beginning to witness a creepy net movement. So I'll put my stop loss below the key level. Let's see how that will play out. But if price breaks down the 143.800, price will already be back below the descending trend line. So I would like to see some confirmation, like continue retest of that structure to join the decline to the downside. So it's a very simple trading setup we have here on the USDJPY. So let's see how the market is going to play around this particular structure. Will this bullish buyers withstand the selling pressure, or are we going to see sellers take over the market, breaking down both the key level and that descending trend line to incite selling ideas? So we shall see. And remember, we have the ADP employment change about 12:15 p.m. UTC. We have a couple of speeches from the Fed officials by 12:30 p.m. And then we have the ISM services PMI, which is coming up by 2 p.m. UTC today. So these are events that market participants are looking forward to, and I can understand why we are having the market consolidating at that crucial juncture around the 143.800. Of course, I will be updating us accordingly as we continue to monitor price action around this particular area. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will take another 5-10 seconds off. Let's see if there are any questions before we move on to the final assets on our watch list today. Stay tuned in. All right, all right. So, in the absence of no questions, we're on the same page, right? And I do hope you've marked out the structures accordingly. So, let's see how the market will play out around them. And I wish us all the best of luck on this one. So, moving on to the final asset on our watch list. So the final asset on our watch list for today is my favorite, and that is the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. For those of you who are following me on my Telegram and TradingView platform, I did give an update this morning. I ran a commentary on this one, shared with you a simple trading setup that will help us navigate this market today. This week has been tremendously bullish for us, and we were able to capitalize some of the bullish momentum during the later part of Monday. And in fact, the structure we marked out ahead of the new week, I mistakenly deleted it while I was trying to analyze the market, not knowing that it was that same structure we used at the beginning of the week. But I was able to find a new setup that we are going to be using to navigate the market today. And as it is right now, gold buyers are weighing safe haven demand against the US dollar strength as market braces up for key US economic data and Federal Reserve official speeches coming up later today. Now, since price action tested that 3,390 level, that was on Monday, we saw the market do a decline, which for me, I see as profit-taking activities ahead of the major event coming up later the week. And this retracement move was supported by the stronger than expected US job data we saw yesterday. We talked about this earlier. That is the JOLTS job openings, which shows that which reinforces the US labor market and strengthens the US dollar at the same time. Now, with the way things are going, and of course, federal officials are not rushing into cutting interest rate at this point in time. From their narrative, they are being very cautious, reducing the urgency for monetary easing at this point in time, which had been one of the major reasons that we saw the gold prices slow down in the last 24 to 36 hours. Now, with the way things are going right now, I'm beginning to see that sellers are finding it difficult to continue that decline, which tells me that market participants still have a strong hope to buy the gold commodity. Now, if you look at the renewed fears of the US-China trade war situation and the expected, there was supposed to be a phone call between Trump and Xi, I think it's today or tomorrow. Investors are very cautious right now. Investors are on their edge, and in this kind of situation, in this kind of uncertainty like this, it usually favors the gold commodity. Then the geopolitical uncertainty is still there. Expectation of Federal Reserve rate cut is also still there. Then the US budget deficit is not also helping matter. In fact, this has affected the US Treasury significantly as the US Treasury bond yield keeps on falling, reducing the opportunity cost of holding non-yielding asset like the gold commodity. And this is further evident on the chart, as you will see after price dropped significantly. Yesterday, we can see sellers were unable to break through. In fact, we saw price break out of this structure, which for me makes a very good signal that price is likely going to the upside today. But not today. I don't know when it's going to be, but before the week runs out, we're likely going to see price climb to the upside. And this whole consolidation we see here is that it can be attributed to the major key players stepping aside from the market, waiting for this data to come in before making any aggressive bet. And if we look at things from a technical structure, you can see we are right above an ascending trend line, a trend line which was initially a resistant line at some point in time. As you will see, sellers were using this trend line as a yardstick to push price to the downside before we finally saw a breakout here on Monday. And since that breakout happened, this trend line here had continued to be a support line. So we can see price broke out of structure, came back to retest it, and this may likely be all we need to continue that uptrend move. So as a result of this, I have positioned myself above the resistant line of this range bound structure at the 3,360, which was what I updated us this morning. And if you look at the bottom of your screen right now, you will see that I do have 2 buy positions running above that 3,360 level. I'm yet to have a stop loss. I'm thinking that we could see some wish-wash. Price could do some big swings around this area before it goes up, and I'm ready to risk more on these bullish expectations here. So as I continue to monitor price action, it will tell me as price evolves, I will get to know when to move my stop losses and where to move it to. And if we see a situation where this ascending trend line is breached and broken to the downside, a breakdown of the 3,345 could signal selling ideas, and that could be supported by a strong US dollar if US dollar begins to gain some traction. But I will not jump in right away. I will wait for confirmations to happen. It could come in the form of price retesting the structure or coming back to retest the trend line, and the inability of buyers to break above the trend line will be a good signal to join a sell. So in the meantime, I will have my TP for sell positions around the $3,310 area, which is right around the secondary ascending trend line I marked out here, and that will be dovetailing to about 300 pips. So I want to see how the market will react to this trend line. So this primary trend line is our key structure, will be the determinant factor of where price is likely going today. So as I continue to monitor price action around here, I will be giving us updates on both my TradingView and Telegram platform. And it's very likely I run a scalping live session today. Yesterday, I didn't do very well in the scalping session yesterday. At a point, we were in profit. Then suddenly we relinquished the profit we made yesterday as the price, as market continued to go into a choppy situations, which made me lose the profit we made. So let's see. I will monitor price action here, and if I see an opening to scalp, definitely I will be live streaming that trading outcome. All right, so that there you have it, my in-depth look at the XAUUSD for today's trading session. I hope I made myself very clear, but if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I'll take another 5-10 seconds off. Let's see if there are any questions, and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. It continues to inspire me to do more of this, and of course it also helps these communities to grow. Thank you very much as you do so. So let's see if there are any questions before we start rounding off on today's Forex Morning Mastery. So I see your question here from, what's the name again? From Celine Deli Guli. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Forgive me if I didn't. Good morning to you. You said, should price break above the buy level, at which price level will you add more buys? Well, I don't know for now, but depending on how the market evolves will determine when and where to add more. The reason why I've said this is simply because, one, if you look at the second attempt by buyers to break out of the previous high, it ended up in a lower high, as you can see here. So in fact, I would love to see price break out of this previous high. There may be a retest of structure before jumping in. So in the meantime, I cannot project where to add more buy positions. So let's wait patiently. Of course, I will be updating us accordingly. And if it happens that I run a scalping live stream, then join us to see how we will be navigating this market together. So I hope I answered you, Celine Delay. All right, so in the absence of no further questions, I guess we have come to the end of today's Forex Money Mastery session. It has been a great moment with you guys. I really enjoyed this time with you, and I want you to support the channel, like I said earlier, by clicking on that like button, and thank you very much as you do so. So today we were able to wrap up on the 3 financial instruments we're monitoring for this week, which includes the USOILSPOT, the USDJPY, and of course the XAUUSD. And on all of this asset, we were able to identify simple trading setups that will help us navigate this market today. So I hope you marked out the structures accordingly as we have planned. If you have done so, well done to you. So all we need to do right now is exercise patience and allow these structures to mature. For those who join us for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain 1 or 2 things from this session. If you have done so, you of course want to be part of our subsequent editions. The next one is on Friday, 8:30 a.m. UTC. That's 9:30 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to review how well this asset have done and of course prepare ourselves for the final trading day of the week. So I look forward to seeing you then, guys. And it's on this note I want to wish us all the best of luck today. Trade smart, trade consciously, and do have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye.